You just had to bring up SVB, and I'm not gonna touch
Sorry.
it. No. I'm not. No, I'm not touching it. I'm not touching that
Okay.
one.
That's good.
Hit me on Twitter if you want my opinion on that one. On this episode of ResiWeek, we talk economy confidence, PR tools, and ADT goes DIY. All this and more on this episode of ResiWeek.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
This is ResiWeek, episode 374, Booking Work. Welcome to this episode of ResiWeek. This is your weekly roundup of all the latest news and stories for the residential AV industry. I'm your host, Matt D. Scott for AVNation.tv, and this week I'm pleased to be joined by three of my good friends. First, we have coming to us from an airport, Avi Rosenthal. He's a partner at bluesalve. How you doing, Avi?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on. And yes, I'm at an airport, as most people know. That's where I spend most of my time.
Most of your time. Then we have Ian Bryant coming to us from Jackson area, where he's an operations manager and PM for Premiere SAV out of Jackson. How you doing, buddy?
Doing great. It's always great to be here, Matt. Thanks.
It is fantastic to have you. And last but certainly not least, I've got my good friend, Mr. Bob Archer. He's the senior editor at CE Pro. How you doing, Bob?
Awesome. And you, Matt?
I'm doing all right. It's a Monday of a short week, so can't complain too much. We're wrapping some jobs up, which makes me happy. And then we get to start new ones. So,
No end in sight.
Yeah, no end in sight.
It's a good thing.
Sure. We'll go with that. With a story that comes to us from CE Pro, confidence in the economy has dropped among small business owners. A national index finds. Read through the article. They cover a lot of interesting things that sometimes don't necessarily line up with the headline, sometimes contradicts some of the numbers in here, but that the numbers don't always read what you want them to. Avi, I want to start with you on this. The biggest thing that they're saying kind of across the board is that they're down 7% to 20% of small business owners are saying that the U.S. economy is in good health. That they don't plan to increase investment. That's dropped from 47% of small business owners to 38%. So there's some stats in here that show that maybe confidence isn't phenomenal, but it's not like a precipitous drop. It's they've kind of hedged their bets here a little bit in this survey. What does this mean? Does this mean that SMB owners, specifically in our space, are potentially going to be hedging their bets a little bit and being a little bit more conservative fiscally?
So it's an interesting statistic, right, Matt? So what they did was they asked people who had confidence in the economy, and that number definitely shrank. But what they didn't ask is, do you not have confidence in the economy? Because, there's gray matter here, right? There's gray areas here. So yeah, the number of people who are feeling really positive, I mean, we're feeling it ourselves. Inflation is still a thing, and the banking industry is feeling the pinch. The tech market, however, in the first quarter was up, right? NASDAQ was up, and the tech stocks were up in the first quarter.
Fired all their staff, so yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, or they took the opportunity to fire all their staffs and then come back. I don't know, but and it's interesting because they fired all their staff, yet folks in our industry, I mean, everybody I spoke, I happened to be at the ISC West last week at the International Security Conference, and things are very positive. Nobody was shrinking staffs. There's definitely a concern. I think that the bullwhip effect from the pandemic is still sort of looming a little bit. Supply chains are easing up a little bit. Things are getting less expensive from a shipping and receiving perspective, but there's, some consumer issues there. But I would have liked to have seen the statistic of, okay, but do you feel negative? Do you have a lack of confidence in the economy? Because I don't think it's just a yes or no kind of question, right? Yeah. And so the statistics have definitely, there's you and I, we shop, right? We go to the mall. We were talking just before this about some of the things that we're purchasing, and there's definitely some perception there, or maybe things are not as rosy as they were a year ago, but we're not seeing this dire forecast of oh my God, we're in a recession, or oh my God, things are, collapsing around us. This is not 2008, 2009 again. It's definitely more positive and a little bumpier and maybe a little bit more unknown. And so it's harder to predict, because I think even the economists are having trouble predicting it. But we're seeing hiring. I can tell you that my clients are hiring. The number of clients that we have is not shrinking. The people putting out money onto the street for new projects, we haven't seen a real negative impact there. There's still plenty of money and VC money and things. I'm still a little bit worried about Silicon Valley Bank and what that's going to do to sort of the investments in new stuff. But they did get picked up pretty quick, and it'll be interesting to see what the governance is like under the new ownership. But for the most part, last week, everything was very positive. ISC West, man, was packed. I mean, like more people than 2019. I'm waiting to see the official numbers, but the floor was excited and enthusiastic. And, I had a whole bunch of meetings with a whole bunch of different kinds of companies, manufacturers, vendors, dealers, a whole bunch. Things are booming, from that perspective.
You just had to bring up SVB, and I'm not going to touch
Sorry.
it. No, I'm not. No, I'm not touching it. I'm not touching that
okay.
one.
That's good.
Hit me on Twitter if you want my opinion on that one. Ian, my friend.
Is Twitter still a thing? Wait.
It is, yeah.
Okay. You didn't lose your blue check this weekend? You're okay?
I never had one.
Oh, there you go. You never worried about it.
I didn't care. There's multiple other ways you can reach out, and I'll give you my opinion.
Yeah.
Ian, one of the things that always cracks me up when I see these kind of articles talking about positivity or negativity from an economy standpoint for SMB is we always internalize it and make it just about our industry and how that affects our SMBs, right? Our small businesses. But as I was reading this, one of the things that I got thinking about was most of my client base fits this category. Whether it's the commercial clients who are small businesses, or whether it's residential clients who own small businesses, the majority of my clients fit their definition of SMB. Is there any concern? Do you see any concern with our clientele viewing numbers and figures like this? Because they're out there and looking at stuff and going, you know what? Maybe we will pause on investment into our business or our home, which then in turn affects their investment with us as integrators.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things I was thinking about when I was reading this article was it's just like anything these days, the unfortunately media and especially get into the mass media kind of hypes up things. As you both mentioned a minute ago, as there's still this question of, are we in a recession? Are we about to be in a recession? No one really knows. There's so many predicting values. We don't really know. So a lot of the effects that I think we're seeing right now is exactly that, of people saying, maybe we should dial it back a little bit and look at what we're spending on, especially when you look at the small business commercial projects that we work on, where they have budgeted something for an upgrade or a new expansion and have decided to put a hold on it just to wait and see what's going to happen with the economy. So it does kind of put that, it puts a pause on things. I think our homeowners are a little bit different. The residential, they've kind of already committed to at least to a certain point. It's also more personal, much more, well, this is in my house. I really need these things to be installed and to be working, especially when you talk about some of the life safety things like security, and we get into more of like lights and shades, where these are really necessities. They may hold back on, we don't need that 110-inch TV. Let's dial it back a little bit to a smaller one, or there'll be some cuts here and there. But, I think the frustrating part right now is you've got, it's just the prediction. It's the unknown, really. That's the frustrating, because we can't really plan for it. If we had more rock solid data, instead of just predictions, we could, but we're just kind of in that little state of what ifs. So
yeah, none of us have ever lived through a generation defining pandemic before.
That's true.
We don't know what happens next.
Bob, let me ask you this. Something that Avi kind of mentioned, danced around a little bit, got me thinking. how much of this is the positivity of our industry, right? Looking forward, being positive, thinking that we're not going to have any issues. How much of that is backlog? Because I know internally in our business, my personal business, we're still playing catch up on projects that, heck, we got a couple that we signed pre-pandemic that we are finally finishing. And we've got stuff that is mapped out easily through the end of this year that some of it won't get completed this year, still due to product inability, like inavailability. How much of the positivity from the industry is based on backlog?
I think dealers in our industry are sophisticated enough to separate work that they've been working on for the past year or so because of supply chain and whatnot. But, I think ultimately they will gauge the health of their business by the work that they're booking out. I can remember back to '08 and '09 and attending CEDIA that fall of '08, and dealers were expressing to me concern about the long-term health of the industry based on how far out they were booking their installs. So I think they're sophisticated. They recognize what's going on.
All right. I love it. All right. Let's change topics slightly. This comes to us from Residential Systems and Lexi Gardner out of Castor Communications. 5 free PR tools for custom integrators. Read through the article. Lexi covers, obviously, 5 really good free tools that can help you in your daily PR and your marketing plans. Ian, I want to start with you on this one. If we couple this story with the previous story, right, and we take it with the grain of salt that there may be a slowdown, etc., one of the easy things to do if there's a slowdown, or if you want to be a little bit conservative with your spend, your outlay, is some of the low-hanging fruit of marketing that we can get into. I've always found that as an industry, we're not great at marketing ourselves at all. We cannot seem to figure this out. Is this a time to be buckling down on trying to start your marketing, for heaven's sakes, let alone increase the quality of your marketing?
I think the first thing would be to have the integrators in the channel decide what marketing works for them, because we are such a diverse group of small businesses. For instance, up here in Jackson, Wyoming, we rarely ever communicate directly with customers looking to hire us. These are individuals with extreme net worth values that do not communicate directly with any contractors. They have personal assistants and managers, and the builders and the architects and the designers are the ones doing all that work. So for us, marketing is more about communicating with our trade partners and making sure that they understand the importance of working with us. And so instead of doing marketing to the masses, for us, it's more important to figure out ways to connect directly and work with our designers and partners. For integrators that are doing more of the direct to consumer communication, where the smaller, maybe a lot faster projects are happening, where an actual homeowner is looking for an integrator, then marketing is, especially on social media, marketing is much more important and much more key to drive attention to their businesses. So I think the first thing to do is to find out what exactly is your focus in your market, and find out what that go to market strategy is. After you've found that, then it's do I want to focus on doing social media key marketing campaigns to consumer, or do I want instead maybe to, I don't know, become a CEDIA COI and start teaching outreach classes to the architects and designers, and making sure they understand who we are and show them the importance of working with us. That's, I think, the first thing I would do. After that, once you figure that one out, then it is really key to kind of figure out not only what's best, and if you have the funds or the budgets for it, But also, if you have the staff, as we know, the majority of integrators, most of the internal management are wearing multiple hats. So do you have the time and the effort, the energy to do it and do it well? Because as you've seen, if you do marketing halfway, some of these campaigns can just be a complete waste of money if you don't do it well enough, and you literally get no outreach whatsoever, and then you've wasted money, like with Google Ads that didn't go anywhere. So yeah, that's a couple things I would say, but I definitely would start on finding out what works best for your own company.
Yeah, very good. Bob, I'm really glad that he brought up the outsourcing aspect, because so often, and heck, I've been involved in some panels and teaching on social media for integrators, and it's hilarious how often a couple of integrators will pop up and say, well, I got this kid who's down the street, I'll just hire him. He's always online, he's always on Instagram or whatever. We'll just hire them and they can come in and they can do our marketing for us. At what point should most integrators likely look at trying to just outsource their marketing?
I really think it comes down to their commitment and their belief in it. If they believe that they're going to grow their business through marketing and outreach, then they need to go out and find qualified personnel that knows how to use these tools that were alluded to earlier. You simply can't pop on the Twitter or Instagram or even Facebook and throw stuff up there and hope that you're going to draw a targeted audience. You have to know how to use these tools in order to maximize your investment into them. And to reiterate, you have to commit to them. It means you have to use these tools all the time on a regular basis. Otherwise, you're not going to get anything out of them. And the other thing I think related to that is you can't expect an instant return on that investment either. It's more of a long play.
Yeah. So to extend to what Robert said, and first of all, I completely agree. You have to be committed to it. The biggest problem that I see in a lot of marketing campaigns is not allowing it time to develop. So not only do you have to be committed to the program, but you have to understand how to read the analytics. And that's where the outsourcing of the pros come in. You get your Kat Toomey's and your Katie McGregors, who are positioned specifically to do this. And I love what Lexi wrote up. I think that it's a great article. It's a great starting point. But if you're not an expert in some of these things, what Ian said is absolutely right. You're going to end up throwing a lot of money down the drain unless you understand what the ramifications are. And if you try to pull out of these programs too soon before you see the benefit, you're also going to lose out. And so you got to stick with it. You got to be part of it. The outsourcing, find yourself a good pro, somebody who's done it before and understands how to use the tools and how to read those analytics. Because at the end of the day, the analytics give you all the answers that you need to fine tune these programs to hit your target audience.
All right, that's a real good point. All right, let's hit our last story of the day. This comes to us from CE Pro. ADT has announced availability of its first DIY smart home security systems. This is a selection of pre-built and customized systems that is part of their partnership with Google. So you're getting essentially the Nest security platform coupled with ADT and monitored from ADT, ships to your door, set it up, do your thing. Bob, what does this mean for the security industry? Because we've seen them typically push back really hard against any DIY based thing. Heck, any telecom based system. It's always been, which is adorable because up here in Canada, ADT was bought by our telecom. The Canadian ADT version.
It is adorable.
It's a freebie for y'all,
the
four people, the 4 people that care about Canada. But typically the alarm companies, whether we're talking corporate or the alarm integration firms, right? They've been so negative about this. What does it mean for them when ADT, who's arguably probably the biggest player in the game, starts offering this as a platform?
All I think is that they've realized that there's a new era of consumer out there. If you think about people that buy like those purple mattresses or Allbird sneakers and shoes or even Sonos from our industry, there's a certain do-it-yourself element to those product lines. Ultimately, in the case of the electronics, ultimately most people will go to Sonos because they realize it's more than what they bargained for when they buy those boxes and bring them home. And I think all ADT is doing in this case is taking those old packages they used to advertise on TV and repurposing them with a modern take on them. Bundling them with Google and putting them out there for consumers. Ultimately, once a consumer starts to get into this, they're realizing, this is a whole lot more than I bargained for.
Mm-hmm. Avi, Bob stole my thunder by mentioning Sonos, which breaks my heart. I was going to bring it up in the sense of this seems like the security market's Sonos moment where, come on, it's a good analogy.
Okay, it is and it isn't. So let's break it down. So the Sonos moment definitely opened a lot of people's eyes to some distributed audio, right? And it got the people thinking about this whole idea of connected audio and things like that. Where I think it breaks down is Sonos, as wonderful of a product it is, and this is nothing against Sonos at all, but it solves only one problem. Whereas the ADT security system becomes an on-ramp to solve a great many problems and to discuss and get the homeowners involved with a great many issues at hand. It's not just a security system, it's a connected device, it's Internet of Things, it's smart thermostats and smart this and smart that. And so unlike the audio system where it was just scratching the surface, this essentially is an on-ramp. And ADT is using this as an opportunity to get the sector of the populace that is not interested in a professionally monitored system, or a professionally installed system, I should say, because this is professionally monitored, a professionally installed system, to get into and become a customer of ADT. Once they do that, they want them to become customers for life. And so if you can catch somebody in a rental, for instance, and it's their first opportunity to have a connected security system, when they move into their own home, they're going to have an ADT account. They're going to have experience with ADT customer service. And the hope from ADT, at least, is that they will then, say, hey, I just moved and now I have a bigger system. I'm going to need professional installation. Can we talk about that? So there are definitely parallels to be drawn from the Sonos model, but I think that this is even a bigger opportunity. The industry is changing. Right, the whole idea of connected devices is not just about the $29.95 monitored security system. It's becoming the intelligence, right? You've got, I'll use the M word, right? You've got Matter out there being talked about. You've got other devices being talked about. The connected device that ADT is putting out there with this big, huge company, Google, behind it. And by the way, State Farm also partnering with them. This is a convergence that has not occurred within our industry yet. You've got an insurance player, you have a large tech player, and you have a security player, a connected device player, all coming together to solve what they believe is the problem with their solution. Watch for more like this. Energy didn't buy Vivint by mistake. Energy bought Vivint because they want in, right? ADT didn't buy a solar company by mistake. They bought a solar company because they want in. These models and these business opportunities that are going to exist are all going to include the integrator. Every time there's a big DIY announcement, everybody says, oh, is this the end of the integrator? No. This is just another opportunity for the integrator to be part of the process.
See, and I'm going to push back on that one again and go to Ian on it with, yes, your stop. Don't laugh, Ian. Come on, let me get it out first. I don't think that this is the death of the integrator by any stretch of the imagination. But what I will pause on is we have talked about, and the entirety of my life as hosting this show, we have talked about every couple of months the concept that these people that start with the DIY Nest system will grow into this system of some form and fashion where all of a sudden we will be their best friends and we will help them with everything. And they're going to spend untold amount of riches to have us put all this beautiful stuff in their home. And it never happens. And almost no one can ever show me an actual person that does it consistently. So Ian, my question to you to wrap this up is, whether they partner with solar companies, whether they partner with all these other things that may happen down the road, and I'm not saying they won't, I don't think that we as a community will be a big part of that conversation. Am I wrong? And that's the show. Thanks for coming, guys.
Yeah, exactly.
I agree, and I agree and disagree. Basically, I think that.
Do you hear the tip tapping? As
Yeah,
he's just
I
trying
know.
to delicately walk this line.
Well, there were a couple of things that I was thinking about when I was, of course, this isn't the first security. I mean, Ring had their little DIY security system as well. And I think, and I wanted to add to what Avi was saying about the expansion of, what we're seeing as expansion of a new market. Keep in mind also that right now is one of the most expensive times in the United States to purchase a home. Less and less people can afford to buy a residential house, especially in the newer generation. And they are living in MDUs, and they're living in apartment complexes, and they're living in condos. And this is an entire new market to allow for smart technology that is not permanently installed, but gives them the ability to do integration inside of these facilities in these homes as well. And so I wanted to expand to say that was one of the things that I was thinking about, is we're really starting to see this push to a whole new market segment. But also keep in mind, these solutions are not scalable in the size homes that some integrators or a decent portion are working in. At least a third of our industry are working in large custom homes, and these DIY solutions are not scalable, not fittable, not able to be integrated with other devices, only currently with the ADT, solutions package, or with possibly in the future with the Matter if they decide to go that route. So I would say to get back to what you asked, I see a segment of our market shrinking. There is a segment of the market that we're losing, and we will always lose to that market, to these new types of technologies and these two new devices. But at the same time, I don't see the rest of our market shrinking. I see it also expanding. The expansion of the technology market in the home and the business is growing and will always perpetually grow, because technology is enveloping everything that we do every day. But as we lose this small segment of the DIY and the easier to do IoT products, our other segment is continuing to expand as well. There's just going to have to be a shift in the integrator community and how to target the other more expanding market that you want to be in. And again, and I don't mean to beat this. I've said this a lot, but this is another opportunity for integrators and the industry to continue to sell their services and their knowledge as a consultant. Mm-hmm. Because even though this says it's DIY, there is probably at least a third or more people who could buy this or want to buy this that have no idea how to set it up on their own. So there's lots of opportunities there still for our market to be a voice, to be a consultant if you're not selling the product, and sell your labor and your abilities. So I sorry to tiptoe, yes, around it, but I think it kind of goes both ways.
That's where the similarity, the Sonos lies, is that, yeah, you can go into your local big box store and buy a Sonos soundbar or whatever, but for a multitude of reasons, people either choose not to do it themselves because they technically can, or maybe they figure they don't have the time, and ultimately they hire an integrator. And it's well known that how many dealers are installing Sonos at this point. It's a popular product line.
And Matt, the question also goes back to how many $1,000 installations do you want to do as an integrator? And the answer is none, yeah. Right? You're here to do the bigger systems, the more complicated systems, right? You're not interested in doing the $1,000 system. You're not interested in holding the consumer's hand through that process. So the DIY...
Oh, I don't disagree.
The DIY program.
There's a large portion of our industry that does that.
But there isn't. I would disagree with that. There's not a large portion. There are some volume guys out there. Look, I was at the security show last week. There's definitely volume guys in the security world, but there is not a large portion that do that kind of small hand holding. You know, they're still in the ADT system. You're talking about $299. Okay, there's no money in it for an integrator to do a $299 install. This is about a larger system. This is about upsell. This is about, like Ian said, using their skills and their understanding to broaden that installation once they get a taste for it, because this part is absolutely true. Once the consumer gets a taste for home automation, once they get a taste for connected devices and apps and things like that, I don't know what the exact statistic is, but I'd be willing to bet it's better than 80%. Stick with it, right? That the abandonment rate of these DIY systems is quite low, because once they get into it, they stick with it. Or the big guys wouldn't do it. Simply Safe, again, not an accident. Simply Safe, millions of installed users, right? Everybody uses it. Everybody loves it, okay? And it broadens the whole base. And they've never done a connected device in their history. You can't turn your lights on and off with a Simply Safe system.
That's the truth. All right, gentlemen, let's leave it there. Thank you all for joining us. Avi, if people want to connect with you, learn more about bluesalve, how do they do that?
Best way is on our website, www.bluesalve.com, bluesalve.com.
Excellent. Thank you, sir. Ian, if people want to connect with you, learn more about Premiere SAV out of Jackson, how can they do that?
Same way, website, Premiere SAV, and that's PREMIERESAV.com.
Excellent. Thank you, sir. Bob, if people want to connect with you, do you remember any of your social handles?
I was hoping to plug. I don't remember my Twitter one, but I would like to plug my Instagram account.
2020.
First of all, if I could ask people to go to cepro.com, but Instagram, BA1, the number 1, Boston.
That is the one. You'll find a lot of good stuff. I love your content on Insta. It's fantastic. All right. If you'd like to connect with me, thanks again for joining us. But if you'd like to connect with me, you can find me on Twitter at Matt D. Scott and most other social platforms. But more importantly, please stop by AVNation.tv, where you'll find this show as well as a wide variety of other shows with all the verticals that we cover. When you visit the website, please take a moment to check out our supporters. We are extremely thankful for their support and ask that you check them out as well. Thanks again for watching. That's all the time we have for this episode of ResiWeek.